So we're going to go over this study guide for the types of numbers test that you're going to take tomorrow. And like I said, you have to remember a lot of things to do well on this test. You got to read it and take your time. So let's see how you did. The first question says estimate. So remember on your test, when it says estimate, you have to show your work. Before you take your test, if you need to write at the top of your test, the first 12 perfect squares, do it. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, and 144. Now, if you don't have those memorized, you know how to figure them out because you're just multiplying the same number by itself. So those are the first perfect squares. But you also need to know the first 5 perfect cubes. And we've talked about them. 1, 8, 27, 64, and 125. So if it helps you, put it on your paper because you can use it. So for this first one here where it says 2 to the square root of 30 without a calculator, remember you put it in the middle. On the left you put 2 to the square root. On the right you put 2 to the square root. And then you look at your list of perfect squares. The perfect squares that are on either side are 25 and 36. And then you write down 2 times whatever the square root of 25 is, I just told you, 5, and 36 is 6. So this answer is 10 and 12. We've gone over this. Make sure you show your work. And then when we come to the next one, you got to pay attention because there's a cube there. So this is a perfect cube, not a perfect square. So recall when you do this, you want to put a cube root on either side. So you're looking at those orange 5 numbers up above. So the perfect cube to the left is 27, and the perfect cube to the right is 64. And the cube root of 27 is 3, which means the next one should be 4, and there's your answer. There will be those on your test. The next section, it says you can use your calculator, rewrite the following decimals as a fraction. So you've already done this, hopefully. Remember, the first one here is a repeater. So for 0.36 in your calculator, you would put 0.36 until your decimal disappears all the way across on your screen. This first one should be 4/11. 3.45 is terminating. You should have a large whole 3 whole number, and your fraction should be 9/20. Number 5, you should have put 0.6 repeating until the decimal disappears, and that answer is 2/3. The next section, when you rewrite fractions as decimals, remember fractions is just a division problem. You're just dividing. So this is 3 as a whole number. You're going to divide 3 by 8. When you divide 3 by 8, you get a terminating decimal that ends, and it's 3.375. Number 7, when you divide this, you get a repeater. Remember, when you write a repeater, you only put the numbers that repeat with the bar over it. The last one over here, 22/9, that becomes 2.4 with a bar over it because the 4 repeats. We learned the difference between rational or irrational. I like to always remember irrational first. Irrational is pi, and pi is irrational because of 2 things. Those ... dots. And remember, ... means never ends, never repeats. ... never ends, never repeats. So, yes, you're permitted to use your calculator. When you do the square root of 4 over 9, the square root of 4 over 9 is 2/3. 2/3 is a fraction, so this is rational. Fractions are rational. The second one, this sticks out like a sore thumb. Every time you see a pi, it is irrational. Number 11 is a repeating decimal. Repeating decimals are rational. Number 12, you're going to evaluate the square root of 50. When you put that in your calculator, you get 7.071 ... And once again, ... means never ends, never repeats. So this one is irrational. Make sure you know on your test the difference between rational and irrational. So the next section here, it says solve. When it says solve, you got to show your work. I'm going to write something in this section here that you could always write on your test from memory, but you got to remember it, okay? So in this section here, we learned when it's x squared, to undo x squared, you have to do the square root. We then learned when you have a square root of x, to undo that, you put parentheses and you square it. When it's x cubed, to undo, or the inverse operation of x cubed, is the cube root. And when you start off with the cube root, the inverse operation is parentheses cubed. Now, I advise you when you take your test, put that somewhere on your test so you remember. And then I'm going to grab my highlighter because one of these scenarios gives you two solutions. So you have to remember this on your test. And the scenario that gives you two solutions is when you take a square root. Because recall, when you take a square root, it's the same number times itself. So two negatives become a positive and two positives become a negative. So let's take a look at this row. On number 13, on the right says the cube root of x. So to undo this, you all should have parentheses with a cube. You grab your calculator, you put this in your calculator, you get negative 512 equals x. Because the cube and the cube root cancel. On number 14, this is not just one step. There's a 2 next to your x squared. So in number 14, you had to divide by 2. When you divide by 2, you get x squared equals 36. However, you're not done because it's not x. To undo x squared, you're going to take the square root of both sides. The square root and the square cancel, so I have x. The square root of 36 is 6, but this is the one where you need two solutions. Two solutions. Number 15, on the right side it says the square root of x. To undo the square root, you're going to square it, both sides. Remember, when you square a square root, you're left with x. You only get one solution, 16. And the last one on the right of this row, your x cubed has a minus 43 next to it. So to undo minus 43, you're going to add 43 to both sides. Opposites cancel. X cubed is 343. And then to undo x cubed, you have to do the cube root, the little 3, cube root. Now recall, if you've forgotten, the cube root, you're going to press Math and number 4 to get your cube root on your calculator. So don't forget where that is represented. So the cube root, that cancels, and we have x. And the cube root of 343 is 7. All this will be on your test. So we're down to the last one, which is standard form. Sometimes your calculator will work, sometimes it will not. So remember, positive exponents, move your decimal to the right. Negative exponents, negative exponents, you move to the left. Yes, you can try to put this in your calculator, but remember standard form, when you write standard form, it's expanded. It's the large number. So, number 17 should be 0.0302. 18 should be negative 9,600. And number 19 should be 0.004. Okay, we're going to go to the back. So on the back, when you're writing them in scientific notation, this is when you have to use your calculator and change the mode. So remember your mode, if you cleared your memory, it's on normal. So you have to change it from normal to scientific. So make sure you enter on scientific. These, you would strictly put it straight in your calculator, 10,800. And when you do, it would say 1.08 E4. But recall, I will not accept an E on your test. E represents a power of 10. So you would put 1.08 times 10 to the power of 4. So no E's on your test. Number 21, you can put that straight in your calculator, and your answer would be 5 times 10 to the negative 3. And the last one, 22, would be 7.4 times 10 to the negative 2. We're going to stop there on this video.